Welcome everyone to the Animal Reader. The Animal Reader is an animal news organization based in the Netherlands. Today we're going to talk about Panda LeLe, passed away 2 weeks ago, and Yaya, who's still in a zoo. They were both in Memphis Zoo, and we're going to talk about them with Tom Clemenson and Sarah Chen. They're from Panda Voices, which is an animal rights group, an international animal rights group. Welcome, Tom and Sarah. Tom, you're based in the United States, and Sarah, you're based in China. First of all, Tom, can you tell me, Lila has passed away. Can you tell us what the status is and what you know about her death? His death.
Uh, Monitoring the panda cams is something we've done pretty much immediately since the start of our group. Sarah actually headed up that initiative. She began it. Some other supporters took to it as well. So it's done pretty regularly in the days leading up to LeLe's passing. Sarah, as well as some other supporters, noticed LeLe stumbling around, not eating, looking extremely distressed. He was walking up to visitors, shaking his head in circles. He makes these motions. He looks like he's roaring, but he's not. That's just a sign of like hunger and distress. And we saw a lot more of that in probably like the last week of his life. We tried to alert the zoo. We called them multiple times. We got the same runaround answers. Oh, the pandas are fine. We check on them regularly. The pandas are fine. We check on them regularly. Finally, on January 31st, we noticed him try to walk, and he basically just fell over. I believe some supporters noticed this more than once. January 31st, LeLe disappeared from the panda cams. They didn't announce his death until the 3rd. So they knew what happened. They hid it from the public. They gave a very a very careless answer of saying, "Oh, well, we believe he just passed in his sleep." Then CAZG, the Chinese Association of Zoos and Gardens, they finally managed to conduct an autopsy last week after LeLe passed away a few weeks, and they ruled it as a problem of heart disease, which sounds a little suspicious all over again because heart disease does not crop up overnight. It doesn't just appear. I mean, sure, maybe it could build up and worsen over the course of a few weeks, but in a geriatric animal, one that's supposed to be under veterinary check pretty constantly, I'd imagine professionals would catch on to this.
The Chinese government loans pandas to zoos all over the world, as that's been for the past 50 years. They've been doing that, and Lele and Yaya were at Memphis Zoo for the past 20 years almost, and they were going to be sent back at the beginning of April. And what Tom was just saying, so the moment it was announced they were going to be sent back, like you've been following them for a while, like when did they start looking bad to you?
I think actually I started to focus on Yaya and LeLe in the end of 2020, and at that time their conditions are already very bad. And when I searched the internet, search about the information about Yaya and LeLe, I found actually the concern already started as early as 2012. Some people they visited Yaya and LeLe and found they are underweight and they look very sad. So they posted on the internet. But at that time, since Yaya and LeLe are not very famous pandas, so not many people follow up their conditions. And in 2019, the Memphis local media, they covered Yaya and LeLe and posted a photo of Yaya. In that photo, Yaya sat on the stone and raising her head up, and she's staring at the camera and she just sitting there still. She looks very sad. So that photo makes me cry at that time. So I feel it seems Yaya is in a very bad condition because I think most of the pandas in the world, they look very choppy and their fur also looks very beautiful, but Yaya looks very different. And both Yaya and LeLe are underweight. So at that time, I started to follow their conditions. Did a lot of work to try to improve their conditions. We write 3 emails to the zoo. One was sent in 2021, and the other 2 letters were sent 2022. But these letters, we didn't hear the response from the zoo. And after In Defense of Animals joined our campaign, they also supported us a lot and bring a lot of attention. Unfortunately, it seems Memphis Zoo is always very stubborn to make a change. Although we express our willingness to do some donations to donate the toys or food, but Memphis Zoo rejected our requests. And we watch Yaya and LeLe on Panda Cam every day. They just showing the little interest in their food, and they always beg for food for quite a long time, and no people respond to them. Especially they have very serious stereotypical behaviors, showing their mental stress. So we think the condition is very bad. But regarding LeLe's death, it's even more sad for us to observe his sufferings through the Panda Cam. And LeLe's he started to show dangerous symptoms since the mid of January. And at that time, we found he behaves very differently from his normal conditions. Usually, when he came to the day room, he will try to search the bamboo and he will eat if he finds the bamboo is palatable. But during those periods, we found LeLe, he eats very little and he showed signs of weakness, and he slept a lot. And the most sad thing is that we found LeLe has no strength. Like previously, he always paced around and beg for food. He will even stand up and roar in anger to show his bad feeling. But at that time, he has no strength to roar in anger and beg for food like he usually did. Yeah.
And so, Tom, like both of you, like Panda Voices has been you've been very also very accusing towards Memphis Zoo, right? Like you blame Memphis Zoo on the death of LeLe.
Yes, we definitely try to be careful what we say, because we do like to work based off of evidence. However, given the the documented history of overall neglect, and not just by way of nutrition, but by way of attention. Pandas can be very charismatic animals. If you look at pandas that have like dedicated nannies or a dedicated zookeeper, they're playful. They recognize their nannies. They react to them. Pandas have this natural charisma, and when you looked at Yaya and LeLe, you just saw their light was taken away, even while LeLe was still alive. And just watching the overall physical neglect, no one coming to check on them, no one coming to play with them, stimulate them, very little enrichment. It's hard for me to not blame the zoo for his death. There's an example of a panda in China he was found in the wild. He went through many hardships. Something happened to him where basically his mouth was severely injured. He was missing a lot of teeth by the time he was rescued. And what his zookeepers did was basically made like a chopped up salad of bamboo, fruits, other vegetables, whatever he would eat, but really chopped up finely so he could just get it into his mouth and eat it. Both Yaya and LeLe, especially LeLe, were documented as having bad teeth. They had dental problems. So if you give them bamboo that's rock hard and old, they don't even want it. They're forcing themselves to eat it, but now they can't because they can't even break it. So since LeLe's passing, awareness has increased greatly. And with more awareness, we get more participation. So a group of anonymous panda warriors, they took it upon themselves to book some digital billboard time in Times Square, New York. They did this on their own accord, their own money. They didn't do it for credit. They just want to help bring more awareness to the cause. It was a really great moment to see the overall awareness, not just on the spot, like to see it in the city that I come from. To see a cause that I'm trying to champion, and to see it up on a big screen in Times Square was really, really mind blowing. And to see other people looking at it, complete strangers were stopped, and they were definitely taken in by it.
And this is, I think, the fight of almost any animal welfare group, animal rights group. So you see this happening in front of you. You see this on cameras because people can see, go to Memphis Zoo, go on the website, and you can see the panda camera. You mentioned she is very sick. We see this and this, but at the moment that the Chinese government is also, veterinarians were there. If they don't feel we should take Yaya away now, and Memphis Zoo isn't cooperating, what do you focus on then now? What are your next steps? It must be extremely frustrating, but like I said, it's the fight every animal welfare group has if you're not backed by governments and the zoo itself.
It's definitely tricky. This case in particular, because there are lots of levels of bureaucratic interference. So China is state-run. China is a communist country. America isn't. The pandas initially, going back to the 50s, 60s, it was meant as like an act of diplomacy between China and the rest of the world. The problem with diplomacy is now everyone's walking on a tightrope. You don't want to offend people. You don't want to say the wrong thing. If you're merely the employee in this organization, and it's on you to say, well, oh, these pandas don't look well, but you don't want to lose your job, you're going to try and pass the buck and say, well, they seem okay, or maybe this condition exists, but it's not as bad. And you write it up a certain way. You say it a certain way. So now the responsibility is cast off of you. And hopefully it goes to somebody else. But it never does, because everyone is playing the same game. And it's the same thing on this side. Nobody wants to look bad in this case. So no one's going to want to take responsibility. No one's going to admit to any wrongdoing. They're going to say, like when we first brought this up, that both pandas look ill, we were told, oh, Yaya's condition is hereditary. Her mother has this. Well, if her mother had this, why couldn't you begin preventative measures prior to? You should have some expertise in this matter already. It also came out that the zoo, in their efforts to breed both pandas, Yaya had 4 miscarriages. As anyone would know, a miscarriage will take a toll on the body, human, panda, otherwise. So you have 4 of them. And this is no longer just a physical toll, but a mental toll, because animals have that instinct to be a mother as well. It's like they admit just enough to get the heat off of them, but they don't want to take all of the responsibility. We have people on both sides playing the same game, and it's really just leading to more problems. It's not leading to better conditions for any animal.
And I'm going to ask you a very difficult question. You said that Yaya is sicker than Lele.
Yes.
Aren't you scared she might not make it till the 7th of April?
At first, when we heard about LeLe's death, we do feel that will be a very difficult time for Yaya, and we really very worried about her. But now, since Memphis Zoo also feel the pressure, and actually we know some people live in the US, they heard about Yaya and LeLe's conditions, and they take the initiative to form a group, and they visited Yaya in turn. Like they will come to the zoo and just accompany with Yaya and take some videos and post it on social media. So we think that also helps a lot.